The bright lights of the Fox News studio bathed Karoline Leavitt in a sharp, almost blinding glow. At just 27 years old, the White House press secretary was about to face one of Hollywood's most legendary and outspoken critics, Robert De Niro. Her heart raced, but she studied her breath, gripping the microphone as her nerves steeled for the upcoming confrontation. Moments before, Darrow had taken the stage, launching an all-out verbal assault. "Trump is a disaster, and Levitt is his puppet," he declared, his voice heavy with disdain. The crowd erupted. MAGA supporters were quick to jeer, but liberals cheered, savoring his venomous words. Levitt, on the other hand, wasn't shaken. A product of New Hampshire's middle class, a proud Catholic and a fierce Trump loyalist, she had already faced far worse in the unforgiving world of politics. This was more than just a TV debate. It was her moment to fight back and expose Darrow as out of touch with the real America. The studio hummed with tension, but Karoline Leavitt didn't flinch. She stood behind the curtain, a flurry of thoughts racing through her mind. Her assistant handed her an iPad displaying an old Darrow clip from 2016. It was a golden opportunity, one that would turn the tide in her favor. A smirk crossed her face. Perfect. The lights dimmed as Robert Darrow in his trademark black suit stood center stage. His posture exuded confidence. The crowd was electric with anticipation. Sean Hannity's voice cut through the murmur. Hollywood legend, never afraid to speak his mind, Robert Darrow. The applause was deafening. As Darrow grabbed the mic, his voice boomed, commanding attention. "I'm here to say one thing," Darrow began, his deep, growly voice resonating in the studio. "Donald Trump is the biggest disaster America has ever seen. And Karoline Leavitt, the Gen Z kid, is his newest puppet. A mouthpiece who knows nothing beyond reading the scripts Trump shoves in her hands." The audience was split. MAGA supporters whistled and jeered while liberals cheered him on with wild applause. Darrow leaned forward, his eyes narrowing like a seasoned actor about to deliver a memorable line. "You think I'm kidding?" he smirked, his thick New York accent cutting through the air. "I've seen guys like Trump, con men, all flash and no substance. I've played gangsters in movies, but Trump, he's the real gangster and Levitt's his childish lackey. She's 27, hasn't lived enough to know what's going on, and she dares stand before the nation as a spokesperson for a clown." Laughter erupted from the liberal side, a few people already recording his speech for social media. Darrow didn't hold back. He stepped to the side, pointing at the camera as if addressing Levitt backstage. "She's the youngest press secretary in history, right?" he mocked. "Sounds nice, but what has she done besides cover for Trump? Look at the signal leak. She'll let the world see Trump's plans by adding a reporter to the chat by mistake. I don't know if she's incompetent or intentional, but if that's how she represents the American people, we're in big trouble." The crowd howled with laughter. "Right on, Bobby," someone shouted from the liberal section. Sean Hannity tried to cut in, but was quickly interrupted. "Face me? I'd love that," Darrow declared, his voice dripping with disdain. "I want to see her explain how she justifies being Trump's puppet, a guy I've called a danger for years. I stood outside his courthouse, told the crowd to their faces he's unfit to lead, and now he's back with a Gen Z kid as his megaphone. It's shameful." Darrow's words were a direct challenge, a call to arms for Levitt to face him. He waved a dismissive hand toward the backstage as the crowd split into applause and boos. "You know I'm not just talking for fun," Darrow continued, his voice dropping low with the gravitas of a man who thought himself untouchable. "I've seen America through decades. I grew up on real streets, not fake mansions like Trump. I make movies. I built Goodfellas. I live real Trump, he just destroys and leaves. She's the young face he uses to fool people. Look, I'm modern, but she's not fooling me. She's got Catholic faith, prays every day, fine. But if she's praying to cover for Trump, even God can't save her." The audience roared and Nero paused, turning his attention backstage where Levitt stood, simmering with anger. "Karoline, I know you hear me," he said, his voice mocking, yet dripping with challenge. "You tweet you're not afraid of anyone, that you'll defend Trump at all costs. So come out here, I want to hear you. No edits, no scripts, just the truth. But I'll warn you, I don't go easy. I've fought bigger than you my whole life, from film sets to politics, and I've never lost." The tension in the air could be cut with a knife. Darrow leaned back in his chair, tapping the table lightly with a self-satisfied grin. Backstage, Karoline Leavitt stood silently, her breath even, but her eyes burning with intensity. The insult Gen Z puppet echoed in her mind. But she wasn't about to let Darrow have the last word. Not tonight. Turning to her assistant, she snapped. "Where's that old Darrow clip?" Her assistant handed her the iPad, a smile tugged at the corner of Levitt's lips. "Perfect." She nodded in approval. "Let's get it on screen when I go out." As the final preparations were made, Karoline Leavitt stepped onto the stage, her heels clicking loudly on the polished floor. The deep blue suit she wore hugged her frame perfectly, a sharp contrast to Darrow's all-black ensemble. The audience's reaction was immediate. MAGA supporters erupted into applause while liberals responded with whistles. Sean Hannity stood raising a hand to introduce her. And here's Karoline Leavitt, White House press secretary, ready to face Robert Darrow. Leavitt gave a slight nod to Hannity, before her gaze locked with Darrow, who sat there with his arms crossed and a smug expression. He expected her to crumble under pressure, but she was not there to lose. She gripped the microphone firmly, standing tall as her voice rang out across the studio. "Darrow," she began, her voice steady yet piercing. "I heard everything you just said, Kenzie puppet, clueless kid. You think you can stand there with your 2 Oscars and your good fella's voice and humiliate me and President Trump in front of the nation? You're wrong." The room fell silent, stunned by the sheer confidence radiating from the young press secretary. Darrow raised an eyebrow, his smirk still in place, but Leavitt showed no signs of backing down. "You call Trump a gangster, me a childish lackey. But have you looked at yourself? A Hollywood legend living in luxury off New York hospitality, starring in flops like the Al Capone Nights. And you dare talk about failure? You've made millions playing tough guys, but in real life, you're just an out-of-touch relic who doesn't get the American people." The MAGA crowd cheered loudly, clapping and shouting. Leavitt stepped closer to the table, her eyes never leaving Darrow. "You mocked me over the signal leak. Fine, I didn't run that chat, but what do you know about accountability? Mr. De Niro, you stood outside Trump's courthouse, called him a malignant narcissist, but have you ever looked in the mirror?" She gestured to the production booth, signaling for the clip to play. The screen flickered to life, and the 2016 clip of Darrow praising Obama appeared. "I like how Obama handles things," he said in the clip. "He's smart, he's got vision." The clip froze. Leavitt turned to Darrow, her voice sharp as a knife. "That's you praising Obama, the guy Trump beat to bring the change millions of Americans wanted. So who's the hypocrite here? You hate Trump, but you backed what he fixed. I may be young, but at least I'm not pretending like you." The audience exploded. Applause, cheers, and whistles filled the air, and for the first time, Darrow looked caught off guard. He opened his mouth to retort, but Leavitt cut him off. "I'm not done, Mr. Darrow. You say I'm Trump's puppet. I'm here because I believe in what we're doing. Making America strong again from the economy to the border. And you, who do you represent besides Hollywood elites? You live in mansions, open New York restaurants, while I grew up in New Hampshire in a middle-class family knowing what Americans need. Who's really out of touch?" The MAGA crowd leapt up, chanting Karoline, Karoline. The energy was electric. Even Hannity was laughing in amusement, raising his hand as if trying to bring calm to the room. But Leavitt was just getting started. She stepped closer, pointing directly at Darrow. "You mock my faith, say I pray to cover for Trump. I pray for strength. Strength you don't understand, because you only play tough on screen. I don't need Oscars to prove myself. I've got the American people behind me." The applause now echoed through the studio, and even the neutral observers were beginning to nod in agreement. Darrow, now visibly rattled, was losing his grip on the narrative. Leavitt's confidence surged as she leaned forward, her voice low but clear through the microphone. "You want unedited truth. Here's the truth. Trump won because the people chose him, not you. I'm 27, but I've worked for him since college, from the White House to the campaign. I'm not a puppet. I'm a voice for millions. And you're done, Mr. Darrow. The Al Capone Nights lost $40 million. What standing do you have to talk about success or failure?" Darrow shot up from his chair, pointing an accusing finger at her. "You think you're clever, huh? I fought bigger than you my whole life." But his voice faltered, lacking conviction. The crowd started to whistle in mockery, and Leavitt smiled faintly, never breaking eye contact with a flustered actor. "Fight who you want, but today you lost," she said with a quiet confidence. "I'm not here for your amusement. I'm here to show the country how wrong you are." She turned to the audience, raising her hand triumphantly. "Who agrees with me that Mr. Darrow should retire?" The room erupted, applause and cheers shaking the studio as the MAGA supporters rallied behind her. Hannity, laughing loudly, clapped his hands together. "Karoline, you just made this stage yours." Leavitt sat across from Darrow, her legs crossed, her gaze steady as the cameras captured every moment. He stared back, his hands gripping the chair tightly, his face flushed with anger. "Don't get too cocky, kid," Darrow muttered under his breath. "You're not done," Leavitt shrugged nonchalantly. "Neither am I, Mr. Darrow. Ask away if you dare. As the show wrapped up, the clip of Levitt playing the old Darrow video and her crushing "You're done" line hit the internet like wildfire. Levitt beats Darrow skyrocketed to the top of X with thousands of tweets flooding in. Darrow's furious reaction went viral, but the real story was the rise of Karoline Leavitt. The Gen Z press secretary had not only stood her ground, she turned a Hollywood legend's attack into a viral moment that would define her career. The political world was buzzing. Karoline Leavitt was no longer just a press secretary, she had become a force to be reckoned with.